Okay, Mr. Bowie, you want to proceed, please?
The proposal for the Human Resources Department, I'll identify myself, Darryl Bowie, Human Resources. The proposal for the for 2012 for the HR department is $649,000. Within that amount, we're requesting to add 2 staff members, one being a exempt HR journalist, one being a non-exempt HR specialist. Personnel action forms, requisitions are forthcoming on that. And also, in addition, that includes a notable increase from from 2009 and 2010 is increase in training and binding for an employee handbook and a classification compensation study.
The classification and compensation study, have you all identified someone to champion that cause, and how much will that cost us?
We have not identified anyone to do that. There's been a wide range when I was preparing for the budget, a wide range ranging from a minimum 20,000, but most compensation classification companies and consultants were in the range of $35,000 to $40,000.
I see. And are you familiar, Mr. Bowie? I mean, there's been talks about the Department of Community Affairs, DCA, being able to conduct a study like that for the county. Are you familiar with them at all in terms of their capabilities of being able to do something like that, maybe at either low cost or no cost on behalf of the county?
I've talked to members of DCA to some degree and got a cursory overview, not in detail. I have not seen any response to the request for proposal to really assess the capability of conducting the study.
Okay. Would they respond to a? Mm-hmm. Oh, they would? An RFP?
Oh,
yes.
DCA?
DCA.
They would?
Oh, I'm not saying they would.
No.
DCA may not.
But they would have the information to put a salary survey together.
They do require that counties pull together their salary and compensation studies, and they post out at the statewide level those studies. Rockdale has not participated in that over the last several years, so there's no comparable out there. The last salary and compensation Rockdale County did, they compared our region, our county, to counties that was not in our region. They were much further south. So those numbers is why we see now the concern we have now for salaries and low wages, because we're not competing against Dooley County. We're not competing against Duffy County. We're competing here regionally against the larger metro counties. So the salary compensation studies got to reflect that. So we did reach out to the ARC. We have talked to also ACCG, and we just now got a line of how we want to go about doing that. There are those who believe if it's going to cost you $50,000 to do a salary compensation study, then just spread that $50,000 among 800 employees. It's not that easily done. You have to look at every job description, every job classification within, and determine the low level, and all those low levels, you can explain it a little better than I can. Those low levels need to come up to the acceptable level. There's some levels might be already in place that may not see any increase, or may not be a recommendation for increase, and there may be some high levels that may stay the same as well. But the low end here is way out of line in our agency, and that's why we experienced the training ground that you spoke about earlier today.
So, Mr. Chairman, has there been a directive given to HR? I heard what Mr. Bowie just said about classification and compensation study. My question is there a directive to move forward with activating that? I heard what you said, you reached out to ARC and ACCG. My question is, are we moving forward with the study? And if so, when will it initiate, and how much will it cost us? Just basic, definite questions. Have we reached out and identified anybody? Or how soon we will be doing that if we haven't identified anybody? And what type of cost range are we talking about? Have we put a dollar amount on what we're going to do in terms of spending money for a study to do a compensation study for our employees. What are we doing is what I'm asking.
See, the proposal is to do the study, and if funded, we're moving forward with it. The tentative plan on my calendar is to start it by the third week in January, and it'll take approximately 4 to 6 months to complete.
4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months.
And your best guesstimate cost, you said, was up to maybe like $45,000 at the top.
On the high end.
On the high end.
But I expect 35 to 40 to be reasonable.
Well, let me say that I'm one of the proponents of not doing it anytime in the near future. Number one, we don't have a lot of extra money, and we would create compression by raising those on the lower income levels when you have upper management, middle management that won't also be receiving equal increases. And we're talking about now we'd like to give a raise. Well, to me, it's almost more fair to give an across-the-board raise for administrative purposes in most of the departments, maybe not necessarily upper-level management, but it's really hard to understand why we'd spend the money on a pay and classification plan, a consultant, when we know we can't do anything with it right now. And it's going to become out of date by the time, as the economy is not changing anytime in the near future. I just don't know why we do it. That only almost breeds bad morale in the community when you know somewhere else you could be making $80,000 and you're maybe making $65,000. There's certainly a lot of components to what we do in Rockdale County that may be additional perks like take-home cars and those kind of things. And I don't know if that's taken into account in a salary survey.
But there are a lot of, thinking, there's a lot of costs associated with not doing the survey. Surveys
like
typically turnover, retention. We have 300 classifications and 900 employees. That show that over time, through the creation of jobs, the blending of jobs, the adding of duties, that it's become unwieldy because for 1 out of every 3 people that have their own job classification shows the classification system is out of sync. And so there's going to be value to conducting the survey because in terms of morale, it creates equity. I think when you said that we can't do it right now because of the market, there's 2 sides to a classic comp survey. You have you create external equity with outside markets, and then you create internal equity. So just the alignment and the organizational structure being in line creates a sense of morale because right now we have people doing the exact same job side by side in different classifications, the same duties. And those kind of situations will go away, and that impacts retention.
Because the study, your office can't look at that and know that there's disparities?
Well, we know it, but we can't do it comprehensively because we don't have the staff to do it comprehensively for the 850 positions. These positions should be looked at to ensure that everybody's paid for the work that they're performing. That's what the study does. And they're
well, I don't think
fairly.
Anybody in Rockdale is paid for the work that they're performing. I'm just going to say that. And I don't find the value in doing that study because we all know, everybody at this table knows that our employees are much more valuable than what they're paid in dollars. And if we can come up with a 4% across the board, that would be great. But I don't know how you're going to spend that much time and energy plus the money to try and implement a plan that we don't have the money to really afford.
So, Commissioner, your clear recommendation, let's just say to the board, would be to...
I mean, you can look at numbers through DCA, but trying to compare us to Fulton and DeKalb, you just can't do it. You're talking about a different workload, number of people that you serve. I mean, there's a lot of factors why, we're probably, if you looked at maybe comparing us with Walton and Newton, that would be a better comp, I think, than trying to compare us to the metro area. Even though we're on the fringe of that metro area, I think it's just going to be a challenge. Their pay scales are so different than what we probably pay.
But there's multiple components to the classic comp survey. First, when we was talking about the regional survey, you find an exact match. That's the benchmark, the exact match of a comparable economy, tax base, etc. And so that's the starting point. And then you take in consideration who you're competing with and how you want to affect your turnover numbers and turnover rate and that kind of thing, and the cost associated with that. And that's where you move it, upward. With that being a consideration, competing with surrounding counties.
If we go ahead.
We got 800 employees and 300 classifications.
Yeah.
So I see value here because if you got 800 employees and 300 jobs, that means there's a whole lot of people in there doing the same thing. So the value of a classification study now begins to pare down, and there will be create some compression. So now you can say secretary or administrative assistant over in this department making $5 an hour, and the secretary administrative person on this side over here making $10 an hour. It's a huge disparity. So there will be some compression. Where is the ground line? So I think when you start looking at growing your community, taking your community forward, I think these kind of things that are required of the county to do a salary and compensation study, it's an investment. And I just think that will help us not only in terms of value, creating value, it's going to help us potentially also to create equity in job descriptions. And so we do the study, as the Commissioner said, we may not be able to do a full-blown raises across the board. This time is not there for that. But there's certainly we can do something by staying competitive. You know, a Walton County or a Newton County, they're having the same kind of issues we're having. They're losing people. And so people just cross the fence from one side, the other fence to the other side. But I can tell you, it's where the dollars are is where we're losing our people, not where the dollars are not. So I continue to support a salary and compensation study. We hadn't done one in a while, and we are required to do one. So I just want to put that back on the table. But Commissioner Van Ness is correct. What do you do after we do that? We don't have the monies to.
But you fulfilled your requirement on paper and spent taxpayer dollars for something that we cannot find. And I know that
we're going to find dollars for the district attorney. We're going to find dollars for the clerk of court. We're going to find dollars for the judge, the public defender, the sheriff's department. We're going to find dollars for those. Those are the employees we're talking about. So we got to be broad-minded and broad thinking, out-the-box thinking here. I mean, we got a lot more things to do going forward.
Right, and you can't just take into consideration the consultant's fees. You also have to take into consideration Ms. Patterson, Mr. Bowie's fees for spending their time focused on that big project. And it's a big project, I would imagine, not just getting the information to the person, but also implementing any plans, changing of job descriptions. It's a massive undertaking, I understand. Now, I have brought to the table many times, and I know Ms. Miller and I were meeting about it earlier in the year, where we took the code for each employee and aligned it with their salaries. Is what we've transitioned to in our payroll department. And that's been done. And what we had met about was working with ADP to find a more exact, way to find out exactly where the budget is currently with a push of a button. And they have that capability. I believe we're paying for that capability, but not using the capability. Is that it?
That I'm not sure. The director that came before, I know that they were working with the ADP, and I'm not sure if that project was completed enough for us to tell the vacancies. And I know we've discussed about the vacancies and position codes.
And the reason that's important when we're talking about this is that you can code those people so that you can compare an administrative assistant here to the administrative assistant over here and get it more of a level playing field for salaries and salary discrepancies. And that was really the goal, is that we have the technology available. We're paying for the technology, but we're not using the technology. And I know Mr. Pridgeon came into a meeting that we were in, and he was supposed to be getting the update on how that system would work and also the new platforms that ADP offers. And he probably could tell us more about it. But I think that's probably a real critical piece to helping us get everybody in alignment with if there's disparities, large disparities in what you're talking about.
And the ADP system we got is HR benefits, which is a benefits program, but it's not designed for recruitment and classification. And we can't.
It does have those components, and we've met with them about that. But Mr. Pridgeon was getting the follow-up information. That was 8-9 months ago, maybe.
Yeah. But it doesn't have the capacity to analyze and generate reports by position. When you say looking at by position,
yes, it does.
How to represent? Okay.
Yeah, Elizabeth is who we met with, and we were assured that those opportunities were there, and that's why we wanted to go, because there had never been the opportunity to align all the fire personnel and with a push of a button know exactly how much you've spent to date for payroll in those codes. We had never done that before, and I don't think that we can do that now.
It'll be difficult. It'll be manual.
Yeah, But now they have the technology, if you code all your employees in fire correctly, or you have an employee that works in the fire department half the year and then transitions to the sheriff's department, you code them so that you just push a button and you have accurate numbers to date, which would be a huge tool for us in management purposes in the county.
Let me just say this. I realize Mr. Bowie's only been on board with us, just like the fire chief, a small amount of time, and he's had an opportunity to do some assessments of various departments in the county. We were talking about, I started the question concerning the salary and compensation study. One of the concerns I had in the earlier conversation is we were talking about the $10.67 an hour we pay for a 911 dispatcher, entry-level 911 dispatcher, and the fact that we are losing trained, certified, qualified people to our neighboring counties and cities, even right here in our own backyard to the city of Conyers, using that particular example with a 911 dispatcher. If we're able to move forward with the salary and compensation study, we would know exactly where we need to be market rating those salaries and wages so that we can attract in the right qualified, competent applicants to come on board into the county. Because one of the things I noticed when we're talking about executive level people coming into the county government, there's always been a lot of conversation about skill set, credentials, qualifications, and making sure that we're getting competent people. Well, when we do this study, it's going to help set a standard, set a tone, so that we can progressively think forward and position the county not only to take care and upgrade our current employees when the time is right, but as we continue to reach out and recruit people into Rockdale County government, we can match the skills and qualifications with the salary and compensation. And if we don't have that best fit or best match, people are not going to consider Rockdale County as a place of employment, because we're all over the place in terms of what we pay for some roles and what we pay for others. So if we have a standard and a better identification of what we should be doing based upon the market, it helps position this county for future progress. I do understand that as we talked, and I've been talking a lot over these last couple of days about increasing the pay for our employees, we do need to figure out what we can do, Ms. Miller, colleagues, what we can do in terms of what's going to be best, whether it's right now or in the right now near future that's coming up, that we can either come up with a dollar amount across the board to all employees, or whether that's going to be a percentage. I think that needs to be looked at in a very diligent kind of way while we're still moving forward to get this salary and compensation study done, because we're still going to need that in the days ahead. Mr. Chairman, what is your position on those matters? Because we've got two issues at stake, and the thing that Mr. Bowie brought to us this afternoon is of course, it's a part of his plan to go forward with a comp study.
It's always been my plan. So my position is still stand the same, is to move forward with the comp study. In terms of addressing the other position on raises, we always want raises. We got to still further consider those pieces there. So that's my position stance there. And I do also kind of agree with Commissioner Van Ness. If those, 6 in one hand, half dozen in another hand, if you're going to do this over here for $43,000 and take that resources and just spread it out across the board. So we want to just depend on our content experts who do this every single day to bring us the best possible solution for us. So that's my position there. But let me now kind of zero down as we move out of the personnel side, look at the professional services. Can you talk about the professional services up on the purchases and contract services for me, please? That $25,000 right there.
Professional services relates to testing that we do, drug screening, public safety exams, polygraph, and flu shots that we would typically provide, and professional employee training.
Okay. Public safety. So are you absorbing the public safety into your budget? So when it comes, is that y'all been communicating on that behalf?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Our office is absorbing the cost of the polygraph tests, and the public safety exams.
Okay. Then let me look at the printing and binding. I do know we've asked that we, how much of printing and binding, what's the clearance there for me? So the public can know.
Yeah, printing and binding increase was solely to provide handbooks. We hadn't had handbooks printed bound in quite a number of years. It was to satisfy that. And the increase reflects how much, when we call 2 or 3 printing companies, their increase reflects what they said would cost us.
You're speaking of employee handbooks.
Employee handbooks.
Okay, that gives the policies, procedures, rules, and regulations as an employee comes into the county. When we hire someone new, we typically want to assign them an employee handbook, have them sign acknowledging receipt of receiving that book. Is that what you're talking about?
That is correct.
We don't have that.
We don't have it. I think we do have some policies we give is in a binder, but I don't think we're giving them anything to take with them.
You're talking about making certain that each new applicant that comes on board, and for the current people that's been here, that's probably been hired in the last 2 or 3 years, has not received a comprehensive employee handbook, is what you're speaking of.
That's correct. That's correct.
We need that.
Well, let me ask you this. Through ADP, I know that, for instance, like our health care registration online that we did recently, is there not an online piece that we could also have that as an option as well?
For the employee handbook? Yes, we should be able to get it incorporated online as well.
Yeah. And they would have to, because I know there are some programs where they can read it and then they have to sign it online as an electronic signature, so that may be an option as well.
Okay, Commissioner, you have any additional questions for the Director?
I do. I had a couple. Under advertising, you had $1,200, and it previously in 2010 was $161. Can you explain what that's for?
Well, I just took a comprehensive look at several years, and that was an aberration in 2010, and typically that was the range in which the advertising costs would fail.
What are you going to use it for?
When we recruit for department head positions and the like, through the typical job search engines to recruit, especially for the nationwide type recruiters.
Okay. And then under supplies, you had food that I guess for 2010 had been $50, and now your proposal is $1,500. What is that for?
Office, holiday events, things for the staff.
Oh, in your office?
And also, are you participating in the SPLOS program this year, next year? Different departments is providing meals at the SPLOS oversight committees each meeting.
That's right.
And we take it out of each department?
Your project is involved.
Just projects?
Yeah, like since we're building for the sheriff's department, or since water, any department that's involved in SPLOS. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, is that part of traditionally what we've done is given people budget money for food and things like that?
No, not in the past. We don't.
Well, I just think we should clarify, because wouldn't be fair to do for one department what we're not going to do for all across the board.
Makes sense.
So.
I can say that.
Okay.
But go ahead.
I just want to verify the $25,000. That is for the consultant, or do we need to add more money?
Yeah, my original submission was I think it was $40,000 for the consultant. $40,000 for the consultant.
I guess out of the $89,000, is that enough for the consultant, or you said we would need another? Because I didn't see it in the justification.
I'll have to go back and under professional services, and itemize. But I do remember the total coming up to 89. It might have been something at the time that I didn't make a decision. I will.
Mr. Bowie, I'm going to go back to, you looked a little bit, I know that you just came on board and embracing some of the, I guess, the do's and don'ts of what we do in the county and understand how we operate. She bring up a valid point about the food cost here. I was never aware that we allocate monies for any departments. I know the BOC does what it does when we do certain things that comes under the umbrella of the BOC, and it represents the county in whatever fashion. But I don't think each department get an allocation for hosting celebrations or holiday events.
It's not been the culture that
That's acceptable. I just got that from past documents, and I thought I had something in the past documents.
Okay.
But that's acceptable if it's not standard.
You know what? We used to have an employee picnic, and that might be maybe where it was.
Well, he said he pulled it from a past document. Yeah. Well, you know, in HR, there's a ton of past documents over there.
Yeah.
So
and that very well could be where
it'll tell you what he probably stumbled across. He's going to believe all that stuff you read.
Yeah, here's the historical.
That being said, I mean, we're dealing with it. Certainly that's one that we need to.
One of the other points I wanted to make is under education and training, you don't have, it's a small amount, but in fact, under professional services, even though they might be contracted, you have $25,000 in there for training that I would think needs to be moved to training instead of professional services. Ms. Miller, under professional services, he has $25,000 for training. Would that not go under education and training? Instead of being lumped in. Yeah, on the next page under his justification, there's $25,000 for professional employee training.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what type of training? It would be under, if you're talking about for your staff, that much for your staff?
County staff.
So wouldn't that be part of READ? Would it be READ?
Do you have a different budget for that?
Would it do one for READ?
No, this is everything.
Would that be?
I don't think it was the same type.
Yes, like READ, so it needs to go under training.
Yeah, it might be technical or professional. Usually we do contract. We usually contract out to people.
I mean, I understand if you contract, a lot of times people might lump it into professional services, but I think for the board, it's great for us to see it under education and training so we know what we've dedicated for that purpose. And we can see it because $1,200 that's in here. I mean, I don't know why we'd separate those two. It's just, for management purposes, I think it's a little bit better to put under training.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for HR Director?
Mr. Bowie, I spoke with you earlier. You talked about the process, the hiring process. I'm bringing that up again about we've got several jobs posted on our website that has been posted out there for quite some time. I know, and I've said this several times before, that Rockdale County certainly is not the savior of all the folks in the community who are unemployed. I understand that. However, at the same time, I think we can be a means to some ends to some of those folks who are out there searching for employment by making it known as much as we possibly can and doing all that we can internally to make the process, the application process, as hassle-free as possible. There's several jobs that are posted right now that have been on the website for quite some time. Can you just speak to what's going on with getting some of that? The fire chief spoke a little bit about the dispatcher position and the office manager position, but there are a few other ones, such as the custodial position that's been out there for quite some time. And from a common sense perspective, when I think about the number of people that are unemployed and the fact that that particular role and a few others are still out there as a job that needs to be filled, I got to believe that there's somebody right here in our backyard who can certainly be qualified to take that job. Can you tell me about that, please?
We're researching a custodian position right now and the concerns surrounding that and why that hadn't been closed out. I did look into the dispatcher because after several weeks, and I found that it had a low pass rate. And so I recently asked for, the validation study for the test to see if the test is actually measuring what it should be measuring and measuring it how it should be measuring. And so I have it on my desk now. I'm going to read through, see if there's a problem with the testing because the pass rate is exceptionally low, and that's slowed the process in filling the public sector dispatcher positions.
when I spoke with you about a month ago concerning the office manager, that one position, I think at that time, it was about a good month ago, you told me on the telephone that you had over 300 applicants for that one role. And I just find it difficult with the number of folks that are out of work, even out of a pool of 300 people, that no one could qualify for that particular role. I don't understand.
I look at that one in particular and highlight that when I was taking one at a time and I was going through the validation study, looking at the test procedures, because that was impacting several positions, our testing process. So subsequent to that, and this afternoon, I'll take a look at specifically that office.
Thank you so much. One last point I want to point out to you. As you can see, I'm paying attention to what's going on over there, because there's a need in our community to do what we can. And if, again, Rockdale County, we don't have 500 jobs to offer people. We understand that. But the few that we have, we want to make the process as easy as possible for an applicant who is interested in making an application go through the process. I've heard from some folks that talk about how convoluted the online process is in terms of filling out your application online and uploading a resume. It should not be such a difficult process, and it should be the kind of process that goes into a system that will allow some type of response by way of letter or email response back to that applicant to let them know whether they are qualified, going to get an interview, or that we at least acknowledge receipt of their application. Can you help me with the technical aspect of that part of it?
Well, all those things on our hot point list. I'm working with Kristen with ADP to work on trying to have one application that will serve multiple jobs, and we're seeing what we can do to make that happen. And Mr. Howell, the MIS, the director of MIS, is working to create job agents so people have to check regularly. They can, put in a keyword and they can notify when positions are open. And we recently weren't able to use, when people come in with resumes, they couldn't use the thumb drive. And so he's modifying the thumb drives in the office so that they can attach resumes using the office computers. So we identified some of those items, and we're working to correct them and make them more user-friendly.
And are we giving equal consideration and weight to people that walk in with resumes and fill out the application as we are online applications?
Yes, equal
Okay.
consideration.
Okay, very good.
Any further questions?
One last thing, Mr. Chairman. When the posting of the positions that we do have, Mr. Bowie, do you happen to know the different media outlets or resources that we're, just for the jobs that we have in Rockdale County, where else other than our own website can anyone find a job in Rockdale County posted? Is it through Monster, Rockdale Citizen, Rockdale News? Where else can they go and find a job for Rockdale County?
Outside our website. I'm going to refer to Greg on this. It's targeted based on the recruitment effort. Because some we go to the professional associations. I know with the director's position that we're recently working on, we may identify a trade association. We may use the Monster and major job sites. But it is tailored toward the recruitment effort for each individual position.
That makes sense. But this also makes grassroots sense. And listen to what I'm going to say to you. We need to do every single thing that we can for every job that we have in Rockdale County government to make sure that the residents that reside in Rockdale County are made clearly aware of those jobs being advertised in their backyards. And I understand about matching it based upon the trade industries and different outlets, but I want to make certain that every media outlet, whether it be the Rockdale Citizen, the Rockdale News, Uncommon Ground newspaper, Crossroad newspaper, all of those local media outlets, that every person I'm passing on the aisle at Walmart, at the gas pump, at the barbershop, that are in need of employment, they know that there are job openings and vacancies in their backyard in Rockdale County. We have a 12% unemployment rate in this community. And since we have a few open and vacant positions, we need to do all we can to make certain that the people here that reside in our community have first dibs on getting a job in their backyard.
That's right.
Thank you.
With that said, your advertising budget,
Do what you got to do with it. Do what you got to do with it, because I want to make sure all these folks know that there's a job here.
move your food costs to advertising.
Right. Because if you move to advertise and they get a job, they can buy their own food.
Duly noted.
All right, any more questions?
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
Just under general services, office and classroom supplies, and I don't know what kind of, do you know what classes you're
I
interested in
took
offering?
historical data on that. I wasn't
Okay.
certain. But I know
Well-
we use, paper, journal office.
Right. Well, in all fairness, for office and classroom supplies, I think when REAP was fully in action, that probably was a higher number, close to what you have here. But certainly, I hope that across the county, we're not ordering extra periodicals for the industry and things like that. I mean, we just don't have the extra money right now to do those things like we would in a good budget. But I do see the value of training for our employees, and yesterday we talked about not just entry-level QuickBooks, but we're pretty much in dire need around here for a higher-level QuickBooks class so that, the departments do use QuickBooks, which are our smaller agencies like our Parks and Recreation, our court system. Somebody in our court system still uses QuickBooks, don't they? Yeah.
It's a good program.
It's a great program, and especially it's user-friendly.
It's user-friendly.
But if we're they've self-taught. Most of those people have all self-taught, so there's probably not a lot of alignment with our finance department. So maybe if we could get a higher-level QuickBooks class for any department that is taking monies from the public, maybe higher-level Word documents, things like that, additional training there, just to make our employees that we do have more efficient, make their job easier for them to manage.
Appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions for the director, please?
The longer he sit there, the more I think about the question. Hold on, I have one other question. Just a week or so ago, we talked about the possibility of looking at some temporary employees. I think it was Dan Rothwell in the Stormwater Division. And when I revisited the whole thought, in fact, I saw the meeting on Channel 23 again, and the thought that hit me again, why would we really go after temporary folks when there's a possibility in this pool of applicants, there could be some people other than not having to pay all of what we pay when we get a part-time person or a temporary employee. I understand that part of it. But there could be some folks in that pool of applicants you have over in HR that could certainly qualify. We talked about data entry, accounts receivable. Those aren't the kind of skill sets that are uncommon for a lot of people in this market out here. I mean, there's got to be tons of folks that have accounts receivable, data entry, basic accounting, even to a little bit of what she said about basic QuickBooks. Most people just like having the skill set for Corel and Excel on a computer. Those are basic nowadays. Can we look at, instead of going with temporary services, let's look at the pool of applicants we have, and maybe we might have that skill set sitting over there on an application that we need to blow the dust off of it and get that person in for an interview.
Yes, and
It's just something to look at. Again, I'm going to keep talking about what we can do to grow our own community, because when we talk about shopping Rockdale and bringing revenue into this community, it goes the same way when we talk about hiring a resident that has an address in Rockdale County who is unemployed, because the moment we give them employment, they can shop Rockdale then and put revenue back in our system and pay their taxes. I hope you all hear what I'm saying here, colleagues.
I've been saying the same thing.
Okay.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms.
In
Boyd.
fact, I think I mentioned to you the policy that was created in another county for hiring as a priority your own residents.
Absolutely.